morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Well, we have something that takes us into somewhat uncharted territory this week, and I hope you'll find it interesting. More about that in a second or two. Along the way today, Baxter Black talks about another aspect of the horse industry, the horse trader.
Now, before you get the idea that Uncle Albert was unethical, you should understand the rules of horse trading. There aren't any.
Yeah, that'll be neat. And on the Rangeland News, look at the world population in the next 20 years and what it will take on the part of North American ranchers and farmers to keep them all fed.
If we allow the supply of food to not keep up with demand around the world, it's certainly going to be something that we all have to deal with.
And a neat piece of cowboy poetry inspired by a ranch wife who came from town, and in the back of the truck, her husband found a plastic bag labeled steer manure. And on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear horse training file, I guess I promised to talk about something a few weeks ago, and a listener let me know that I forgot all about it, so we'll cover that subject this week. Now, about my guest today, we could possibly call this episode the Organ Recital, and you'll meet a well-known country music radio personality who heard that I was in need of a kidney transplant.
I'll give you the real reason why I did this, and what just put me over the top of going, you know what, I'm going to see what I can do to be your donor, Hugh.
That is, of course, the one and only Louis the Big Rig McIver, and he's here with me today, minus one kidney. And I'm going to start things out here with a song that, for the last 20 years, always finds its way into our playlist in late March.
Bald eagles back in the cottonwood tree. The old brown hills are just about bare. Springtime sighing all along the creek. Magpies ganging up everywhere. Sun shines warm on the eastern slope. March came in like a lamb for a change. Gary's pulling calves at the old stampede. We made it through another on the northern range. Lonnie's pulling calves at the top of the world. We made it through another on the northern range. Well, the big Chinook blew in last week. It was warm and strong from the western sea. Pretty soon water running everywhere. Hell, it could run fast enough for me. Broodmare's sleeping in the afternoon sun. She's shedding hair everywhere. Time for a change. George is pulling calves at the T-bar. Why? We made it through another on the northern range. Waddy's pulling calves at the Little E. We made it through another on the northern range. Bald eagles back in the cottonwood tree. The old brown hills are just about bare. Springtime sighing all along the creek. Magpies ganging up everywhere. Sun shines warm on the eastern slope. March came in like a lamb for a change. Larry's pulling calves at the quarter circle S. We made it through another on the northern range. Alan's pulling calves at the bar for Orlock. Made it through another on the northern range. Gene's pulling calves at the Horseshoe Bar. We made it through another on the northern range. Ian's in the hills and he's trying to write songs. Kids in the country where the tall grass grows.
Well, sitting across from me right here, right now at the McLennan Ranch World Broadcast Center is the one, the only Louis the Big Rig McIver. On-air personality of the year in 2012, 13, and 16 from the BC Country Music Association, host of the Rock and River Fest in 2017, and the co-host of the Big Rig Breakfast Show weekdays on Kamloops Radio. One of the reasons I asked you up here, one of them was so we could sit and pick and sing and do some songs, which is really fun. But
that's how he lured me in here.
Yeah.
People.
But this March actually is Kidney Month.
It is.
In North America. And quite a few people probably are aware of the fact right now that ever since November the 22nd, you have not been all there. And the only reason you're all there now is because we're together.
Well, that's a neat way of putting it here.
And it was on November the 22nd that I received your left kidney. And they implanted it in my right side.
And how's that working for you, Hugh?
Well, gosh, I was on dialysis for 2.5 years, which meant I had to make the drive into Kamloops, a good 45-minute drive every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and spend 4 hours in the chair watching my blood go through the dialyzer. And I was way more fortunate than a lot of dialysis patients because it worked real well for me, and I felt pretty good. But I had to have that, or my kidneys, would not keep me alive on their own. And now that your kidney is working just fine, I don't have to do that anymore, and it's just amazing. I still catch myself thinking, oh gosh, it's Wednesday, got to go to town. No, I don't.
You should tell them the truth, though. It's like they took one away from me, and you still got 3.
That's right. I have 3, and you have 1. So how's your surviving one working?
It's doing real well. I just hope as many people that ask me, how am I doing, are asking you how you are doing, because they all seem so concerned for me. And I'm going, I feel great. I've lost some weight.
This is really interesting because organ donation is so important. And there are literally hundreds of people in Canada waiting for a kidney transplant. And there quite possibly are living donors that might be a match. But for a lot of reasons, people maybe are a little reluctant. You've got obviously a great perspective on what it's like to be a living donor. And how was the process for you?
I feel great. And it's not a scary thing. And anybody that has ever considered it should just go through the process, see if you're a match with either a friend or maybe you just want to donate. One way or the other, it makes a big difference in people's lives, and there's no change. Maybe I drink more water. I've lost some weight. Is there anything wrong with that? I'm.
Well, I was reading some stats where living donors, on average, live longer than the average population.
Come on.
That's true, and there are reasons for that because they screen you very carefully. You will not be allowed to donate a kidney unless you pass. You must have had to go through an awful lot of testing before it was determined that you were an appropriate case to be a.
You know what donor. I told you?
Yeah.
I told you when you said, well, I'm just going to double check and make sure that this is all necessary and stuff. And, with your doctor. And I said, Hugh, after all the testing I've gone through, if you don't take this darn thing, I'm going to give it to the next person in line. Did I not say that to you?
And, you did. and that took a fair bit of pressure off of me. But anyway, here, have a drink of water while we take a short break. And when we come back, I want you to share more of why you decided to do this. And, of course, we've got another fine Song of the Modern West, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Country music radio personality, banjo picker, singer, long-haul trucker, and kidney donor, Lewis the Big Rig McIver, sitting right here with me today. And as many of you know, my kidneys started shutting down in the spring of 2015, and shortly after that, I started on dialysis treatments 3 days a week, 4 hours a session. And although it didn't slow us down much, I was still riding and working cattle and picking and singing and keeping the show going, but it would have been the future without a transplant. And that's when the big rig stepped in.
I'll give you the real reason why I did this and what just put me over the top of going, you know what, I'm going to see what I can do to be your donor, Hugh. And it was when I saw Billy by herself in the Walmart. And I went, how often do I see Billy by herself without Hugh at her side? I'm going, very rarely. I mean, maybe when you're in the studio and we're doing an interview for the Kamloops Cowboy Festival, which is into its 22nd year. But other than that, I mean, she's still there to pick you up.
Exactly. Yeah, otherwise I'd get lost.
I'm going, I can't think of a time other than when you're on stage emceeing a show that I don't see Billy at your side. And I just went, that's not right. So I thought, you know what? I am going to take this testing, which included CT scans and ultrasounds. And I think I've given them more blood than I did Canadian Services, x-rays. And they pumped me full of some radioactive stuff to, like you said, about making sure that I was perfectly fit. If there was anything wrong with me, they would have found it.
Yeah.
So to get that clean bill of health, when they say, you know what, you're a super fit human, and then in the same sentence say, but you should lose some weight. And the only reason they said that was because they're looking 14 years down the road, and they say you could be a candidate for diabetes if you don't. So that's why we're saying you should, lose 20 or 25 pounds, and I did. It didn't take that much.
Looks good on you.
Well,
You're looking.
Thankful.
Just
Stop it here.
You always were a pretty fit specimen, but my goodness, even better now. Anyway, having the two of us in Vancouver General Hospital at the same time was almost too much for the staff at times. And moments before my surgery, you had done something that really made me have second thoughts about going through the whole procedure. And let's get to that after a fitting song here from Dan Roberts.
Saddle pals, talk about saddle pals. You hit 'em, I'll hawk 'em. You sort and I'll work the gate. We'll be the best of friends. Ride together till this trail ends. We'll swap everything but gals, we're saddle pals. We'll split the work and we'll have to check. You cut the cards, I'll stack the deck. We'll drag my trailer and drive your truck and use my good looks and your dumb luck. I'll haze your steer, you pull my rope. I'll oil the gear, you saddle soap. You tie one on and I'll stay sober, and I'll haul you home when the rodeo's over. Saddle pals, talk about saddle pals. You hit 'em, I'll hawk 'em. You sort and I'll work the gate. We'll be the best of friends. Ride together till this trail ends. We'll swap everything but gals, we're saddle pals. You prime the pump, I'll muck the tank. I'll ride the drag and you take the flank. We'll play cowboy until it busts us. You be Woodrow and I'll be Gustus. I'll cook you clean and I'll rake you bail. I'll run your dogs while you're in jail. I'll dehorn while you vaccinate. You birdies yo while I palpate. Yeah, saddle pals, talk about saddle pals. You hit 'em, I'll hawk 'em. You sort and I'll work the gate. We'll be the best of friends. Ride together till this trail ends. We'll swap everything but gals, we're saddle pals. Then someday when we're old and gray and our working days are done, I'll bet we'll both look back and say that we were having too much fun when we were saddle pals. Talk about saddle pals. You hit 'em, I'd hawk 'em. You'd sort and I'd work the gate. We're still the best of friends. Ride together till this trail ends. We'll swap everything but gals, we're saddle pals. We're still the best of friends. Ride together till this trail ends. We'll swap everything but gals, we're saddle pals.
This is probably a good time for one cute story. that I think we should share with folks. And we were both there in Vancouver General. And so in the morning, you had gone in, and we should give your kidney a name. I don't know. Little Big Rig or something. They took
Little Luigi?
Little Big Rig. Yeah, whatever. No, they might think we're taking something else there. But anyway, so finally they come and wheeled me into the pre-op room, and they do a little more screening. And I know by now you're in recovery, and it's my turn to go in there and have your kidney installed. And I'm laying there on the stretcher, and here comes, what was her name? Florence, I think, a nurse. Anyway, very great, very nice person. And she's got this great big clipboard. And she comes up and says, well, Mr. McLennan, we have a long checklist of items that we had to have checked off to make sure everything was ready. And we've just about got it covered, but there is one more thing that we have to do, and we have to take care of it before you go in there. And I don't want to raise your stress level, but this is what it is. And she looked right at me and said, we have to take off your mustache. Oh my, can you imagine the thoughts that were going through my head at that point? Like, I've had it since I was 12. It'll take me 3 months to grow it back. And I'm 3 minutes away from surgery. I'm going to cancel. And then she starts to snicker.
Is this where I come in and tell them the evil thing that I did while I was in? Bless her heart, that nurse that I seen in the pre-op. Because a lot of times you'll mention something like, I wish you would do this to my buddy or whatever, but to think that she actually pulled it off, and your comeback of sending me a picture where you photoshopped your mustache off, if it had made it in time and I hadn't caught you up to your deeds, I would have felt bad if you had shaved off your mustache.
Well, that was the last thing I did before we went in. I said, Billy, we got 30 seconds. Take a picture, a close-up of my face, and we'll Photoshop the mustache off and send it to Lewis.
That was like seeing you without a cowboy hat on.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at that picture without you with a mustache. I just went, wow.
But you can't imagine what a relief it was when she finally, she couldn't hold a straight face anymore. She said, and you know who told us to tell you that? Then I knew. But
I don't know whether to apologize or be proud of myself.
You know what it did is when they wheeled me into the room, it set the mood. And I kind of joked with Dr. Guan, the surgeon, about that, and he got a big kick out of that just as the lights were going out for me. That's the last thing I remember. Now, and you had a message for the surgeon just before the lights went out for you, and let's hear about that a little later. Baxter Black is next with a look at not horse trainers, but horse traders, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at trading horses. Ladies and gentlemen and followers of cowboy humor, in a moment of weakness, I, Baxter Black, have written another book. I appreciate it. Its title is Scrambled Wisdom. Almost isn't is it? Which almost makes sense. Well, our offer does make sense. Only $19.95 plus shipping. A solid gold guarantee. Call 800-654-2550. Online at BaxterBlack.com. Horse traders are an uncommon lot. Matter of fact, to be a good horse trader, you have to be born with the ability. It's a congenital defect, sort of a cross between a Ginsu steak knife salesman and a pickpocket. They have the cunning of a coyote, the shrewdness of an order buyer, the memory of an IRS computer, and the conscience of a flat rock. They place very little value on fancy horse barns or matching truck and trailers, white fences, expensive saddles, or two-party checks. They get no thrill from owning a good horse. They're only good for one thing, to trade. The thrill is in the deal. Well, Uncle Albert was a horse trader. He never had a good horse, or if he did, he never had it for long. He'd sell it. He always maintained a used horse lot, and like any smooth operator, he had just what you needed. He could make the lame walk for a couple hours, the bad actors tame till the tranquilizer wore off, and the old young again. You want papers? Well, it'll take a week. Oh, you want a palomino? Come back tomorrow. Uncle Albert never did it for the money. He did it for the fun, for the pure, simple joy of wheeling and dealing. Now, before you get the idea that Uncle Albert was unethical, you should understand the rules of horse trading. There aren't any. May the best man win and the other get skinned. Well, on roundup, Uncle Albert always furnished the wagon. It carried everybody's bedroll, war bag, branding irons, flour, canned goods, pots and pans, hammers and nails, and extra gear. And, of course, he also furnished the team that pulled the wagon. Well, each year it was a different team of horses, green, broke, sour, kicking, spooky, typical trader renegades. Well, I noticed Uncle Albert pulled the tarp down real tight over the wagon and tied it with about 10 miles of rope. He went back and forth and over the top, round the tongue, and under the wagon with the rope, till it looked like the tangled line on King Kong's fishing reel. The new buckaroo said, "Old man, what do you think you're doing? You're using way too much rope." Uncle Albert said, "Nope, Sonny, every year these new hosses manage to turn the wagon over 2 or 3 times before I get 'em gentled proper, and this is a whole lot easier than picking everything up." This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan. Thanks for listening.
Come and be part of the top Cat Speckle Park sale Tuesday, April 3rd at 1 p.m. at Dryland Trading Corp in Veteran, Alberta, offering registered yearling bulls, purebred heifers, commercial heifer packages, embryo and semen lots. This quality group of cattle offered by Unlimited Spots, Lair Ranching, Movin' Spots, C Speckles, DAM Dots Ranch. Check out the catalog online at topcutspecklepark.com or Facebook. Complimentary Speckled Park beef on a bun on sale day. Contact Dustin for more information at 306-228-1498. Rusty Richards, as you well know, is about as cowboy as they get. Fine horse trainer, Hollywood stuntman, and for over 20 years sung tenor with the Sons of the Pioneers. His great paint horse, Traveler, just celebrated his 30th birthday, and, both Traveler and Rusty are looking great. Here's Rusty with one of his fine original songs.
Tacked a new set of shoes on Traveler, oiled up all of my gear, got a brand new pair of Levi's, gotta last another year. I got half soles on my Justin boots, blocked up a new John B. I've been looking around for a gal in town, gonna make a new man out of me, 'cause I'm a cowboy, feeling frisky. I don't need dough, but don't need whiskey. Got no worries, I got no strife. I'm just a cowboy, getting high on life. When the sun came up this morning, it lit up a bright new day. I got a brand new springtime feeling, like a fresh cut field of hay. Like a drink of cool water from a mountain stream, from a thaw of a wintertime freeze. Like the songs that ride on the wings that glide down the stream of a summertime breeze. 'Cause I'm a cowboy, riding high. I can whistle the birds down out of the sky. I can whittle an eagle with my pocket knife. I'm just a cowboy, getting high on life. Well, the sap's gonna running up the sycamore trees till the leaves pop green in the sun, and the grass grows deep on a hillside, better than the general run. There's a meadowlark sitting on a barbed wire fence, singing out joy to the world. A speckled trout feeding in a mountain stream, and it let the big ring where he swirled. Hey, I'm a cowboy, feeling fine. I'm feeling higher than a Georgia pine. I got no worries, I got no wife. I'm just a cowboy, getting high on life. I got a new saddle creaking underneath me. In a month you won't hear it at all. I'll have it broke in like it's part of my skin when the roundup comes in the fall. Young Traveler, he's been a-taking the rein. He knows we're a mighty fine team. With cows on her mind, we're two of a kind. He's a working cowboy's dream. 'Cause I'm a cowboy, through and through. Living the good life, doing what I want to. Been living in heaven like an afterlife. I'm just a cowboy, getting high on life.
The news of the Rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
At the top of page 1, it says the farmers and ranchers of North America will have a huge challenge to feed the world in the coming years. The number of hungry mouths to feed is increasing every year, and to put it in perspective, here's Rod Bain.
Whether the growth in percentage is 50% or in some estimates as high as 70%, there needs to be a significant increase in food production to feed the world's projected almost 10 billion people by the year 2050. That was agreed upon by speakers at USDA's Ag Outlook Forum plenary session. But what might it look like? Bill Lovett of Pilgrims offers one potential view.
We would need 100 million more tons of chicken by 2050 just to satisfy demand. Much more beef, much more pork.
Or put another way, global food production must increase 50% annually to feed the global population by the middle of this century. Lovett adds that if meeting the world demand for food by 2050 falls short, there is potential it could become a geopolitical issue, much like oil, water, or other resources.
If we allow the supply of food to not keep up with demand around the world, it's certainly going to be something that we all have to deal with.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Ranchers moved 4.4% more cattle into U.S. feedlots last month than in the same year in 2017. And USDA says this surpasses the high end of analysts' average forecasts. Analysts partly attributed the placement outcomes to severe drought in Texas and Oklahoma, along with continued dryness in parts of the northern plains that forced cattle off winter wheat grazing land. And packers paid feedlots more for their cattle, which allowed them to buy calves to fatten, and a growing number of heifers entered feed yards, a sign of slowing U.S. herd expansion, according to some experts. And larger than expected placements of heavyweight cattle in recent months imply bigger supplies around the late spring to early summer time frame, according to these so-called experts. Meanwhile, feedlot operators in southern Alberta are dealing with a tight supply of feed, according to Brandon Motts. He's the sales manager at Core9 Commodities in Lacombe. Manitoba corn has been one source that feeders are using. Supply has been consistent from Manitoba, but at smaller volumes than from other places, especially the U.S. The Alberta barley market is heating up, though, according to Motts, as feed supplies tighten. The interest in increasing for feed barley at Core9 feed barley for pickup in central Alberta was sitting at $4.40 to $4.60 a bushel late last month. Well, starting in late 2018, Health Canada is introducing a couple of important changes affecting the way animal antibiotic products can be assessed by producers. As of December 1st, all livestock producers will need a prescription from a licensed vet before they can buy a medically important antibiotic for therapeutic use in livestock production. And this applies to all beef cattle sectors using antibiotics, cow-calf operators, feedlots, and feed mills, and really all sectors of animal agriculture, including beef, dairy, hogs, sheep, horses, fish, and even bees. The new policy doesn't apply just to injectable products, but it also includes some boluses and scour treatments, as well as component and CompuDose implants. And you can get more information on this at beefresearch.ca. Next regular cattle sale at the Williams Lake Yards of the BC Livestock Co-op is March 29th. The next regular sale in Vanderhoof is April the 6th. And the next Kamloops regular sale is April the 10th. And here's something you might want to mark down. The next horse sale in Kamloops will be April 27th. And you can get all the information at bclivestock.bc.ca. Meanwhile, over at the Innisfail Auction Market, long-time family-owned and operated, regular cattle sales every Wednesday. Butcher cows and bulls start at 9, calves and yearlings after that, and bred cows start coming in around noon. And to book your cattle, you can call them at 1-800-710-3166. And how about that? We're down to the final item. And it seems a young cowboy was clipping along through town at a pretty good pace in his pickup. And Constable Jackson pulled him over. The young guy was pretty excited, and as you may know, Constable Jackson is all self-important in his uniform. And he wasn't listening because he was just geared up to give out a ticket. And he demanded the young fellow's license and registration, and the young cowboy kept trying to explain. But the constable got mad because the young guy wasn't doing exactly what he was supposed to do, so he hauled him out of the car, threw him in the back of the police car, and hauled him off to jail. And about an hour later, Constable Jackson comes back to where the cells are, and he says to the young cowboy, "Now, If you had cooperated when I ordered you to give me your credentials, you would have been on your way by now. But now, you're just going to have to wait for the chief to get back here from his daughter's wedding. And you better hope he's in a good mood. The young guy says, well, I doubt it, seeing as how I'm the groom. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up, more from Lewis the Big Rig McIver and the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Well, apparently I promised to address a subject on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File a few weeks ago, and then somehow I forgot all about it. So we'll get to that subject after we take a ride with Sid Masters and the Swing Riders. And this is what you call nice picking.
Free on a fiery, untamed steed, where the curlews fly and the coyotes cry, and the western wind goes sweeping by. My heart enjoys the speed, with my lifetime on the bridle rein, and the saddle girth perched behind, with the lariat tied at the pony's side. By my stout right arm that's true and tried, we race the whistling wind. We're up and away in the morning light, as swift as a shooting star that suddenly flies across the sky, and the wild birds whirl in quick surprise at the cowboy's gay hurrah. We skim the pasture wide, like a seagull strong we hurry along, and the earth resounds with a galloping song. We sail on the fragrant tide. You can have your ride in the crowded town. Give me the prairies free, where the curlews fly and the coyotes cry, and the heart expands to the open sky. Oh, that's the ride for me.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Urban Tack and Western Wear is Canada's largest Western retailer with over 60,000 square feet of everything Western. This Western wonderland has an endless variety of tack, boots, jeans, and outerwear with new items arriving daily. With over 1,000 saddles to choose from, you're bound to say Urban's is totally a unique place to shop. The kids will love the styles. You love the quality. Urban Tack and Western Wear off exit 305 on Highway 2 by Crossfield, open 7 days a week, online at urbans.ca. Well, here's the message I got from a listener. It says, I just listened to your radio show this weekend. I always love it. Well, thank you for that. However, you promised some insight for aged riders who have lost a bit of confidence horseback. The Horse Training File only offered advice on how to lay a horse down. Did I miss something? Well, no, you didn't. I did. I think I should do a feature on old cowboys like me who are getting forgetful. You didn't miss anything. I just kind of forgot what I promised, and I'll try to remember to discuss it. Actually, I'll do that right now. Here are a few thoughts on this. Sadly, I've seen a lot of folks around my age or even younger give up on riding mainly because of a loss of confidence. But I've seen a lot of others overcome this and continue to ride right up into their 80s and beyond. Now look at Jack Brainard. I think he's 93 and he still rides every day. You know, there are so many variable factors: experience, physical condition, personality, and of course, what the horses you ride are like. Now, it's definitely no fun if you are nervous on a horse and anticipating something bad might happen. And that's where the horse plays the biggest part. My wife Billy still rides, and I'm pretty sure she enjoys it. And years ago, when we were starting a lot of colts for the public, I'd put the first few rides on, and then she'd take over, and she wasn't the least bit worried about hitting the ground, although she did more than a few times. But these days, she mostly rides Lucky and Cody, and sometimes Stanley, and we both know that she's as safe as you can be on them. Now, I would say that if you're up in years and concerned about losing confidence, then ride horses that you know are safe. I mean, that's a given. And if they're good and solid, they'll take care of you. If you own a horse that's causing you some concern and you don't have any other options, the best thing you could do, I think, is to take him to a clinic with a reputable, savvy clinician who can really emphasize with your situation. I watched Jonathan Field help countless nervous riders gain their confidence back with their horse, and in some cases, he is honest enough to say, look, this is not the best horse for you at this stage. You should seriously look at getting one that's more reliable. And one more thing I really think riding with confidence is extremely important. And I'm convinced that nervousness on the rider's part is easily picked up by the horse. Visualize things going as well as possible, but be prepared for anything, and keep riding as long as you can. And for Urban Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. Well, our good old mare Lucky gets Hoffmans Senior Ration now, once a day, and she really likes it. You can find out more about it at hoffmanshorseration.com. Come and see the largest selection of well-broke horses in Western Canada at the 5th Annual Top Gun Horse Sale. April 14th, high noon, at the Kelnash Event Center, Ponoka, Alberta. You can preview the horses Friday, April 13th at 4 p.m., and they start coming through the ring Saturday, April 14th at high noon. Horses for ranch work, team penning, rope and trail riding, barrels, mounted shooting, and kids' horses. Every type of horse you might be looking for, including loads of ranch horses. Every horse will be ridden, driven, or led into the ring. Rain or shine, everything's inside. For information and a look at the horses, see TopGunHorseSales.com or call Jordan Dodds, 403-783-0246. Ivan Daines is at work on the 43rd Annual Ivan Daines Country Music Picnic and Canadian Horse Training Championships coming up August 9th, 12th at the Daines Rodeo Ranch in Innisfail, and we will be there. I hope you will too. And what I consider one of the finest songs Ivan's ever written is coming up. But right now, back to my guest, Louis the Big Rig McIver. And you were going to tell us about the last words you had for the surgeon before they removed your kidney.
The last thing I remember is I asked them to put in a six-pack while they were in. And not a six-pack of beer, folks. Like a six-pack for my stomach. And I thought, well, you're going to be in there anyways.
New set of abs.
Yeah.
Did they?
No.
Oh, they don't.
But I did lose weight. So.
Yeah.
And not just the kidney either. Yeah. It was, more than just the kidney. Yeah.
I'm just reading where 80% of the people in Canada that are suffering from what I had, which is end-stage kidney disease, are unable to work. And that means that the cost of their medical care and everything else is a burden on the taxpayers. The cost of every dialysis run is on average $1,000 US. You know, and that, thank goodness, we have a medical plan like that in Canada. When I was able to keep the spirit of Billy and I were able to keep the spirit of the West cruises going. I did dialysis 5 times, I think, in Mexico on our Mexico Riviera cruise. And MSA paid about half of that, but the costs were anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 US for every treatment. 3 days a week, you add that up over the years. Yeah. You can see how important a transplant is, even for the financial side of how it saves the medical system those costs. And it's just amazing. Another story about doing dialysis in Mexico. Now, that was kind of an adventure. But I think it was in the little town of Laredo in the Sea of Cortez where the ship had docked, and we had booked dialysis there months ahead of time, and we took a cab from the ship to the clinic, $100 each way for the taxi ride. Holy. And then I did my 4-hour run in this little clinic, and after I finished, the doctor came out to see me, Dr. Jesus Pinto. He was actually a nephrologist, and he spoke a little bit of English, and he's holding his hand out. He wants to be paid. And, of course, I took my credit card out and gave it to him, and he scanned it on his phone, and I signed it with my thumbnail, and he gave me my card back, and he says, "Senor, I will email your receipt. Very quickly, it will be in your email." Okay, that's fine. Gracias, amigo. And the next day on the ship, we checked our email, and there's the receipt from Dr. Jesus Pinto for $9,000 on our Visa account.
Holy.
And then it dawned on us, it was 9,000 pesos, which was about 900 US.
Still.
Oh, you talk about scary.
Yeah.
But anyway, young fella, I want you back next week because I know you have some incredible experiences with some of the biggest names in country music and a pile of great stories. And I would also just like to make sure that everybody knows that every day 15 people in Canada learn that their kidneys have failed, and many more in the U.S. And currently, 4,585 Canadians are waiting for a transplant. In 2016, 260 people died before they got their transplant. And registering only takes a few minutes through the various provincial registries. And although 90% of Canadians polled indicate that they are willing to be an organ donor or a tissue donor, registry numbers don't reflect that. One registered organ donor could actually help up to 8 people. And the best way to take the next step is simply go to www.kidney.ca/organ donation. Now, here's a song that the whole world needs to hear from Ivan Deans.
If I ruled the world, there would be a sign across every land. No more bombs and no more shells coming from a people trying to make a stand. Above the smoke, above the hate, there would be a master plan to live in peace and trust and faith with your neighbors and your fellow man. If I ruled the world, there'd be no more hunger from outstretched hands. Babies would have enough to eat and drink from an overflowing can. The food would help the weekly walk and help all the peoples understand. We want a world that's full of hope, and that war is now and forever always banned. You can't build a dream when you hear a people's screams, and you can't think you're right when you think of it at night. There's got to be a better way for a life to hope to stay. The winds don't take these dreams and blow them away. If I ruled the world, the down and out and winos would have a home. There'd be a place for everyone, so that no one would ever have to be alone. The sick could go and be made well. The troubled would be cared for with gentle hand. Remember now, all wars are banned. Nations can help each other with their plans. If I ruled the world, the air and the water that we use would be pure and clean. Mountain streams would flow on down to big clear lakes just like in our dreams. sky would remain a pure blue. The richness in the forest and the land. The world would live in harmony, and everything and one would fit into its plan. You can't build a dream when you hear a people scream, and you can't think you're right when you think of it at night. There's got to be a better way for a life to hope to stay, and the winds don't take these dreams and blow them away. And the winds don't take these dreams and blow them away.
Coming up, it's our classic Song of the West and then the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. For this week's classic Western song, we go way back to 1936 and a black and white B-movie called The Old Corral. Kind of a special production, the only movie that Gene Autry and Roy Rogers appeared in together, with Roy having a speaking role. Actually, he even filmed a fight scene with Gene. And Roy did appear in one more 1936 Autry film, The Big Show, but only as a part of the Sons of the Pioneers. Now, this was written for the movie by founding member Tim Spencer, and this version was recorded by the Pioneers in 1941. And when I found this arrangement, I was amazed at how good the sound quality is on He's Gone Up the Trail.
There's gloom around the bunkhouse tonight. There's gloom in the old corral. I said goodbye to Cowboy tonight. I said goodbye to my pal. He's gone up the trail. His old guitar is still. He's gone to join a heavenly band that's led by Buffalo Bill. Old Pinto's head's a-hangin' low. He's missing a cowboy's song. The moon is pale and seems to know tonight there's something wrong. He's gone up the trail. His old guitar is still. He's gone to join a heavenly band that's led by Buffalo Bill. I'll lay my fiddle away to rest with his old guitar, to never play until the day when I cross over the bar. He's gone up the trail. His old guitar is still. He's gone to join a heavenly band that's led by Buffalo Bill.
Now here's Brian Arnold and the Saddle Strings in our Cowboy Poetry Spotlight.
My wife come home from shopping with a big white plastic bag.
I had to take a second look to see just what she had. On the outside it said steer manure. And if that wasn't bad enough, there was a price tag right there in plain sight. She'd paid money for the stuff. Now, I didn't understand it. I just sat and scratched my head. When I asked her why she bought it, she said, "It's for the flower bed." How can they guarantee, I asked, there's just steer stuff in there? I'll bet there's cows and heifers too, with a bull thrown in somewhere. She said, "It doesn't matter. It's been purified and cleaned." Well, that's not the picture I get when I have it on my jeans, but by her voice I knew I'd set her off. I had her on the prod. I best just keep my mouth shut and answer with a nod. And although I didn't understand it, still I had to smile. Someone had figured out a way to sell his compost pile. One of those marketing geniuses had finally found success, getting people to pay money for big white bags of pure BS.
Well, thank you so much for making the ride again this week. And next week, the Big Rig will be back, and we're going to share a bunch of radio stories, and he'll talk about all the big country music stars that he's hung out with and even accompanied on stage, and so much more. And thanks again to Mark and Kathy McMillan. The Spirit of the West support crew could not do it without you guys. Till next week, I am Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.